Thank you for joining the April 11th, 2019 VOLTHA call. We have a couple topics on our agenda today, and please keep in mind we record the sessions and place them on YouTube, so you need to be mindful of that during the discussions and any presentations that may occur today. And with that, let's take a quick look at the agenda. One thing I think I'll jump to first. Zach, are you on the audio bridge at this time?
Yes, I am.
Great. And Les, are you on the audio bridge as well?
Yes, I am.
Great. Okay. I'm going to jump down to this one first because we've had some back and forth on the exploder on where we should have the discussion related to the presentation that Les had put together related to our alarms and implementation. So Zach, I was thinking you may want to keep that on one of the Tuesday STIBA calls for the larger audience, but I wanted to double check and see if we need to cover it. So I put it as a tentative item if we do need to discuss it on this call today. Is there a preference, Zach, from your side?
I don't really have a preference, but usually the STIBA call is doesn't have as many agenda items as VOLTHA does.
Okay.
If we wanted to say discuss that at the beginning of the STIBA calls on Tuesday, which would immediately follow the standard Tuesday VOLTHA call, that would be okay. I don't know if that would work for everyone else. I know there's a lot of people working across the projects. Are there any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm open to that. I just hadn't, this is Les, I hadn't really, I'm still learning my way around, and I hadn't been attending the STIBA call, and it sounds like I probably should. And yeah, I just misunderstood. So I'm open for any of those.
We've also got the Wednesday platform call that usually has lots of extra time in it. You know, if we ran over on Tuesday, we could possibly do Wednesday as well.
Maybe we have too many meetings.
I would like to avoid too many meetings as well.
Now, let's not add any more of them. Let's try to repurpose some of the existing ones.
Yeah.
So
I'd vote for the STIBA call just because it's right after this one if there's no time, and it can carry over pretty easy.
The time factor wasn't necessarily the issue for me. It's just we'd had some discussion on the exploder about maybe doing it on the STIBA call because it crosses both areas. And so we can't keep it on this call if that's better, but I think some discussion kicked off on this Tuesday's call on this same topic. Is that right, Zach?
That is correct. We had, I spent a little bit of time going over sort of the lay of the land. If people want to look, there's a presentation that's linked to that meeting. So is the consensus that we do this we discuss this on the STIBA calls starting next Tuesday? I can put it as the first agenda item.
That would be my preference, I think, to continue the discussion that you started there. And if we do need to allocate dedicated time on a VOLTHA call as well, we can do that. But I think it makes sense to continue it since you kicked it off on the STIBA call.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll make those changes to the agendas.
All right, thanks. And then Les, then I think that would put you on the agenda for next Tuesday's STIBA call, which is immediately following the VOLTHA call. So thanks everyone for your flexibility and your cooperation with that. And with that, I think I'll jump up to the other two topics we have today. So I wanted to spend a little time kind of circling back to some of what we covered or started in the lockdown. And then also we have our next sprint, the final development sprint planned at this point for 2.0 starting next Monday. So we do have a placeholder there, and I have noticed people have started to move items into the sprint, so thank you for that. And then also I wanted to take a look. I sent a little note in the agenda when I sent it out, trying to prompt folks to take a look if there are specific defects in the backlog that you feel need to be addressed in 2.0, then I believe we should look to find an owner for those and move them into Sprint 17. So I wanted to spend a little time today looking at the backlog, primarily at defects, but if there are features or or other issues that have been missed that should have been mapped over for 2.0 that still are lingering in the backlog, then we can clean that up at the same time. But primary focus would be on anything deemed a defect that must be fixed before we release 2.0. And then after that, going back to look at our preliminary 2.1 planning, since we're entering our final sprint for 2.0 based on the current plan, wanted to circle back to the discussion we had while we were at the lockdown and start to flesh out a little more what we have on the resource allocation list. So I have the preliminary info there. We'll want to update names for contributors so we start to identify the teams so people can start working together. And then one note, I did get a response from Sterlite after I sent out the agenda, and we're adding a couple of their contributors to the IPTV multicast scope item. So that's appreciated. Thank you for adding your names to the list there. And then also a reminder for folks who are the technical leads, we're trying to start looking at estimates for the sprint planning so we can identify any dependencies between start times for work on different scope items and try and get a first estimate of how many sprints we may require for 2.1, for the 2.1 release. And then so we can, like I said, if we need to sequence specific work based on dependencies, then we can start planning for that as well. So we do have that preliminary info on a few of the slides in the planning deck, and we'll just try and start filling in numbers where we can. I don't expect we'll have good numbers for the sprint planning estimates today, but if we can at least start taking a look at it, then we've got, the next few weeks we can try and firm that up. And that's what I have on the agenda for today. So any other items that need to be discussed by the group on today's call? All right, then I think I'll jump over to looking at the backlog. And over on this screen, again, focusing on defects, we do have one that is still in the backlog as a, I think is as a critical, I'm trying to find my status here. So this one was an error in the read-write core in disabled device workflow. So
I believe this is done. I think this is done.
Okay. And actually, I see it relates to a different one that was done. All right. So
let me take a look at that in case it's a different one. Because there was one exactly like that was done.
Yeah, I see 1543. We jump over there is the one it was related to. Oops, and I can't get there on this screen. 15. So the related one was deleting a device does not discard the device from storage.
Yeah, that's definitely done.
Yep.
And I believe the 1511 is done as well. I'll just double check.
All right, thanks, Ken. I can't type today, sorry. Thanks, Ken. And then we do have an alarm one that's been mapped over to 2.1. So I think unless there's any debate, we don't need to look at that particular item, but I'll check with the group before I move on. We do have a medium priority that was raised a while ago. We don't have it currently mapped into a sprint. We were awaiting a response, I believe, from Daniel on this, so we've moved it back into the backlog. So I don't believe that's a blocking issue for anyone at this point. And then we have a batch here that are, they're a medium priority, so they weren't flagged as critical at that point, but just a double check from the group here to make sure we have everything identified correctly to see if there's anything that needs to be bumped up and included in Sprint 17. So I've highlighted this block here of the medium items. If everyone could take a quick scan at the screen and see if there are ones we need to look at more deeply today.
1216, I suspect, won't be fixed until we upgrade Val.
Ah, yes. Good point. Okay. So that one would be holding out until we have that upgrade done. Any other items in that batch that need to be looked at today for consideration for Sprint 17? Okay. And then I suspect we should just jump over the ones that are flagged as low priority defects at this point. I'll give you a quick look at a block of them here. And if anyone has one they want to look at, please let me know the number and we'll jump over to that. Okay. And then we had a few more down here that were low priority that were flagged for 2.0. So we'll take a quick look at those as well. Actually, Ken, maybe I should go back to our comments here. So we had, I had a question on whether this one has actually been addressed. But we had to put it in the last sprint of 2.0.
West call hangs for no vote according to sprint. In 2.0, it's very different, the way it's going to work. I have no idea if that's fixed or not.
Okay, so if you find anything out, let me know and we'll do some cleanup in the backlog there.
Okay, sure.
Thanks. Scrolling down, sorry, it looks like we need to do a little more grooming here again. We had a block that were identified for future, so I'm going to move over those at this time. I think we have some unclassified ones down at the bottom of the list, so we'll jump down to those. All right, pardon me while I'm scrolling here. Took longer than I thought it would. Okay, we have an old one that was related to a memory leak and some investigation that was going on with resource consumption quite a while back. So this was in the fall of last year. So this one is still in the backlog. I'm not sure if there's anything that needs to be done on this item since we've been moving to the 2.0 as well. And things change.
1516, again, it was last year, the last time I tried it. I didn't see it anymore. It would basically grow to a point where everything settled down and then garbage collection would do its job. So for 1.x, of course, any change can affect memory. But at the time when this was put in, it was more severe, and I think it was fixed in the 1516 time period. But again, that happened in 1.7 and master. I mean, who knows? Something else could be there again. This is almost like a constant kind of verification thing.
So should I close this one out? Is not reproducible on current load?
Well, at least on 1.6. Not
on 1.6. Yeah. Okay. I think I'll do that. And let me jump over. I'll do that one offline. I don't want to lose my spot and have to re-scroll again. Okay. And then we had a couple down here that were old ones as well. One of them was mapped for 2.0. These are medium priority, 1328, OLT, ONUs, not reachable after deleting another OLT. And I think this one, we had some environment issues. And let me see if Sirkant's on the bridge today. Yes, I do see you there. So Sturcont, I think this is one that you, actually it's assigned to Kata, so I think this is BB-Sim related. So I think probably we do not need to print 7, but I want to check.
Let me try to reproduce it today, and I'll update it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then 1354 is a medium priority, but did not get assigned to a target release yet. It's unclassified. Device route being set for many ONU device adapters. This was back from December. This is
I thought some of the 1.7 or the tech profile work, there was at least a pass at OpenOLT and OpenONU to deal with this. I thought it was came up in another ticket.
And actually, I do see a closed Garrett as well that's linked here. Okay.
I mean, whether all the adapters, you know, Adtran, Tibit, others have it or not, you know, that's really, you know, you can check the source and see. But I just recall, at least for the Broadcom, the OpenOMU one, there was some change there for that.
So let me see who we've got on the bridge, because I know Matt had set the question out to Lynn and to Paul as well. Let me see if Lynn is on the bridge. Actually, Lynn, I see you.
Yeah.
Do you know if you have this issue on the CIG ONUs?
I didn't see this issue now, but
Okay. And then let me see, do we have anyone on from Tibet today? Actually, I don't think we do. Okay.
is
So
this
we'll
issue?
check. Go ahead.
Yeah, is this issue happened with a single ONU or multiple ONU?
Well, it's for the code. So the way the activate method was called when it added or updated the device entry in VOLTHA, the ONU handler would always set device root in the proto to true, even though it's root device. So I mean, the fix really was just go in and then at least in the ONU code I'm looking at right now, it has device root to false now in the 1.7. So if you overrode OpenONU and didn't modify activate, then you picked up this change. But if you did have your own activate, then you might need to double check that device root is now false.
Okay, yeah, I'll check it again.
And I think what drove it out was tech profile work, the way flows were moving through VOLTHA and then the devices. Setting the root incorrectly caused I'm guessing the graph or the decomposition to not produce flows the right way. It really came up with the meter and the handing off to the different meter bands, I suspect, is what drove it out.
Okay, so I think in any case, for 2.0, probably not a need to carry this over into Sprint 17. Should be resolved on the OpenONU adapter, which is one of the components for that, and then we can rely on the vendors to take care of their own specific adapters and take a look at those. So I'll leave it open in the background until we have feedback, I think, from Lynn and from Tibet as well, and then we can go ahead and likely close that item out. Okay, and oops, I went past one, sorry. We did have, oops, I can't seem to scroll that way. Let me try again. Health command doesn't work on VOLTHA 2.0 core. And this one is related to SIM.
Yeah, I will need to work on that one. I have not worked on it.
Is this one I should map into Sprint 17, or would this be a 2.1?
You can put it into 17, and then and I'll work on it.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Okay. And then we had one 1388. Again, this one was targeted for 2.0, but it's medium priority. Not sure if we need to include this or not. OLT does not come up as open OLT. Service fails to start. This one was opened by Suchitra, and I think is assigned. Looks like it's assigned to Shad at the moment. Okay, so we do have an owner for it, but I'm not hearing anyone suggesting to move it into Sprint 17 at the moment. Okay, we have another one here that was targeted for 2.0, medium priority, synchronization issue during data updates with multiple cores. It does show in progress, so I suspect we should move this into a Sprint. Would this, and I see a closed gear is a partial fix. So I suspect this should go in Sprint 17?
Yeah, this should go in 17, yes.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Okay, and then we had a Ponson V2 container stops putting VOLTHA in and, stopping the container puts VOLTHA in an unusable state. And David, it looks like this one was opened by you. And we don't have a target Sprint for this at this point. And it was opened, I think, affecting the older version as well.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty low too.
Yeah, this is a medium right now. So I probably am not hearing a move to pull that in. And then we've got a couple low priority defects as well. And then a few more medium. We'll just check the severity, make sure we have these right. 1546 is the one that we do have as a duplicate. So this one I think will be closing out. So I did get that linked over, and then we'll close it. I can't remember now. Let me see if Gilles is on the call today. Yes. Gilles, I couldn't remember from Tuesday, sorry, if I was supposed to wait for you to just confirm this, that it's resolved by the other fix, or if we could go ahead and close it out.
I think we said to close it out.
Okay, thank you. I just could not remember at the moment, so I'll close that after the call.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yep.
And then we had another medium one down here. Let's see, we'll go back up. Let me just highlight the block again and see if there are any that the group wants to look at in more detail for Sprint 17 consideration. I'm not hearing anything, so we'll move on. 1559, this one is a new ticket that was opened, so we haven't reviewed it with the group. I believe there was some discussion. I may have just been on a brigade discussion, not on VOLTHA discuss, but I'm not 100% sure. This is packet duplication seen in the upstream direction from the pond to NNI. And so this is reported by Girish. And so I'm not sure if this is one that we should map over into Sprint 17. I suspect it's going to be worked on in that time frame because I believe we're holding off on 1.7 until we have this issue resolved. Is that the correct assessment? I may not have anyone on the bridge who can speak to that today. Okay, my understanding is that we're going to hold off on 1.7 until we have this issue resolved. I could be incorrect there, but that was what I thought I'd seen from an email exchange. So I would suggest perhaps we map this into 17 at least on a temporary basis. And if I'm incorrect, then we can put it back in the backlog. Any views from the group? Or any objections? Okay, let me map that over and I'll check with Sarov to make sure that I've understood the plan for that correctly. Okay, so that's it for a quick scan through the defects that were open. And is there anything else that folks are aware of that needs to be pulled in, and that can continue to be done as we're going through the sprint if we identify additional items that we missed in the first quick glance. All right, I'm not hearing anything, so let's go back to our agenda. And next item today was to go back and look at the slides where we started doing that preliminary planning from the lockdown for the 2.0 release, and kind of check on the rough teams we started to line up and populate some names in there. And just as a reminder, take a quick look at the table that we have for trying to do some high-level sprint planning. And I think as we get stories entered in for the scope items, then that will help to flesh out, of course, what we need to do for that estimate. Let me go back to the slide deck then. I think I have that on a different window. Okay, and actually while we're talking about putting together the new stories, just a reminder for everyone on the story point estimates. The general rule of thumb we use is captured in the backup slides for this slide deck. So 1 story point, expect it to be less than about a day. 2 is going to be about a day. 3 is a few. 5 is roughly a week. 8 or more. Sometimes we do have a number that's gone in with 8 or more, but typically we try and break those into smaller tasks and subdivide it to make sure we can fit it into a sprint and not get the individual tasks too large. So this is a ballpark estimate that we have. So keep that in mind when you're creating these stories. And if you, when you're working on items, if you need to adjust that, please feel free so we can get a good estimate of how we're doing on intake of points for a sprint to help us plan for the future ones. Make sure we don't overcommit. All right, with that, let's go look at the Scrum team leads that we started to identify during the lockdown. So I'm going to jump back up to another couple slides first, just as a reminder. So that slide we're just looking at, 12, that starts kind of the detailed look. We had just high level for the VOLTHA scope items with the companies that we're expecting to work on items. And so those then are being mapped into that other table with specific names, and then identifying the point person who will kind of serve as a technical lead that I can go to for updates as needed, and who will be helping to work on making sure we have the stories covered and sequenced appropriately for that development work. So we had these scope items, and I said we did have Sterlite added to the list of contributors expected for IPTV multicast. And so that will help. We know this item was at risk, and so we'll start to take a look at that, see if we have a better shot of reducing that risk now that we're getting a few more people involved in that work. And then we had some high level here as well that we think for the testing work, I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle this in 2.1 yet, so we'll have some further discussion. And we had a discussion during the lockdown about possibly having a certification brigade intro on one of the VOLTHA TST calls. We don't have that lined up yet, but that is something we can consider during that 2.1 timeframe as well. All right, let me scroll on down now to the team leads. So I've pre-populated some of the tech leads based on who we've had doing things to date in some cases. And so if I'm incorrect on something, please let me know as we go along. And again, these are out there. You can link to them from the wiki. Let me see if I've got that page up here at the moment. So if you go to the admin page and then you go down to the release planning under development, here's that link that will take you to that. I believe I've also sent it out with the agenda so you can get to that quickly. And getting back to the other screen. So let me see if we've got Sean on the bridge. I don't think I see Sean on the bridge today. I have him continuing as the tech lead for the tech profile and meter band work. I've got Shad and Sarah from ONF, and Girish and Gamza And then we've added Girish from Radisys and Gamza from Netsia. DT, I don't have a name yet. So once we have one, if Bjorn, I think you're on the call. So once you or another representative from DT has some names that we can start putting in here to get the team members familiar with each other, that would be appreciated. And then also we do have AT&T listed as well.
Yes, I will provide a name during next week.
Bjorn, I could tell you're trying to talk, but it came through very muddled, so I'm not sure what you said.
Yeah, I just said that I will provide it the next week.
Okay, the audio is not very good. I think you said you'd provide it next week or something like that. So you can just follow up with me offline. That's fine. Thank you. And then on the AT&T side, do we have a name to put down for the tech profile and meter band work?
Be Matt and William and possibly Don, but for now, Matt and William's fine.
Okay.
Hey, Julie, this is Shad. I'm not sure I'll be working on this, so for now you can remove my name.
Okay, thank you.
In particular with this, it probably would be more on the O&U side as well, given that there's some work there, but it overlaps a bit with the adapter containerization as well. So.
Okay. Okay, thanks. All right. Anyone else that I need to add to this list at the moment? Okay. Next was the migrating the OpenOLT adapter to Go. That is being led currently. I have Amit down for that from Radisys. And so I've got Amit and Shad and EdgeCore, HCL, CIG, Sienna, DT, and AT&T. Any updates I need to do on this list or specific contributor names to add in?
Again, Julie, it would not be true to put my name there. I haven't contributed anything. So when I do start contributing, I can add my name.
Okay, I will remove you for now. Okay, and anyone else with an update?
For AT&T on that one, it's Matt and William as well.
All right. Thank you. And then on migrating from BAL 2.6 to BAL 3.0, I think we have EdgeCore agreed to be the technical lead for that, if I remember correctly from the other slide. And then we have EdgeCore, DT, and Broadcom that we had identified as contributors for that work. Do we know on the EdgeCore side who we think would be serving as the lead? You see who we've got on the bridge today. We may not have the right representation. Okay, I may need to follow up offline on that. So we'll see if we can populate the specific names in here over the next week or so. And then on multiple TCON support, that one I believe was going to be led by ONF, and then the expected contributors we identified during the lockdown were ONF, Netsia, and Radisys. Any feedback? Okay, and I believe this work was going to follow kind of completion of the tech profile work. And so there may be some dependencies on timing for that development work. We'll see if we can get some names associated here. Then IPTV multicast. So I do have, and I think I have a typo in a name here, so I'll fix that offline. The IPTV multicast, we have Netsia here, ONF, and then now a couple developers from Sterlite as well. But we do not have a team lead identified for this. I'm not sure which company will be working sort of in the lead role for coordinating the resources for that work. Any feedback from the group? Okay, then let's go ahead for today and move on to the Envoy RESTful Web Services. That one I believe is going to be led by Sienna. Do we have a name for the technical lead on that item?
You can put my name there.
Thank you, Ken. And then same on the contributor side?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And ONF side, do we know who would be involved in that?
I think it was Matteo that wanted to be involved.
Ah, thank you. That rings a bell. Okay. And then for the anyone else before I move on to the next item? Okay, we have the White Box OLT Device Manager with Redfish. That one, again, is going to be led by EdgeCore, and I have EdgeCore down for the contributors as well. And then I think probably we don't have the right representation down today to get specific names for technical leads, so we'll follow up, see if we can get some names populated over the next week or so. Okay, then the next item was related, yes.
I think Sterlite might be helping with the Redfish as well.
Ah, great. And Sterlite, I think we've got your representative, some of your representatives on the call today as well. So I'll add Sterlite's name here. Okay, next we've got alarms and PM. This one we did not get a lead identified during the lockdown. We do have a number of groups planning to contribute to that work. We've got Sienna, ONF, AT&T, and Cisco. This would be William.
Yeah, for AT&T and Cisco, that's really just me, William. So.
Okay. So let me remove the additional one there, and we'll figure out whether I list you here as AT&T.
I mean, I'm representing AT&T specifically.
Pardon?
I'm representing AT&T. Even if I represent Cisco.
Okay, so I can clean that up offline. On the Sienna side and ONF, any specific names to put down for that team?
Yeah, put me down, David, for Sienna.
Thank you.
And you can probably add Scott for ONF.
And you can add me, Zach, for ONF too.
And Les from Tellabs. I'll help with that.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay, thanks everyone. Then let me go on to the next screen. Okay, BBSIM enhancements, that one is being led by Keita, so I left him on that as technical lead for now. And then contributors, we've got Keita and then ONF as well. So Shad, should I put you down on the ONF side? Or
yes, you can put me down for
okay. Thank you. All right. And then GPON support, this one was going to be led by DT. And then also we have DT planned as the contributor for that. So Bjorn, once you have names, just let me know and we can get those filled in on the spreadsheet. On the EPON support side, I should just check, are there anyone else who wants to add their name to that list at this point for enhancements to support GPON? Okay, then moving on to EPON support, we have co-technical leads for that with NTT and Tibet. And then same for the contributors, NTT and Tibet identified currently. Any specific names that I should add at this point? All right, we'll try and get those filled out later. Then OpenOMCI enhancements. Matt, I believe you're going to lead that technical team. And then Chip, we have you working on that, but mainly in the role of story definitions and scope, not the development work itself. We have Don on that list, Matt, and then also Lynn from CIG. there anyone I've missed on that wanted to be added to the list? Okay, then we do have a number of items that are still TBD, so we'll need to start working on those. Some of these are under investigation, so I'd like to go back to the other slide in a moment and to kind of just check in on those. Testing, let me see, do we have North Forge? Oh, Jill, I remember you were on there. So we do have North Forge, and George is here as well, and we've got a number of North Forge folks. For the testing side, is this something that that North Forge would kind of be looking to lead in terms of automation testing, or I don't know that we have this scoped out very clearly yet for 2.1. Should I put North Forge on the contributor list and then wait to see how the scopes out, or any thoughts from the North Forge team?
Is George there?
Hello, Gilles?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here, but I think it's something for Cristiano to comment, since I'm not really driving this any longer. You guys made a proposal, and so that has been made, and I think we need to get Cristiano to comment on it then.
Yeah. I don't know that it extends all the way to 2.1. That's the whole point. I mean,
so I'll leave this blank for now, and then we can reassess things as we go along.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is jump back to the slides here that we had for a couple items that are TBD. So one of them is the VOLTHA software component upgrade documentation, and we're going to look at some gap analysis and see what's supported today, and then follow up at some point with a readout on a VOLTHA call. And I think Dawn was doing some related work in the background on that, and I don't believe Dawn is available today, so I'll have to follow up after. So next steps for this, I believe, would be some discussion on a TST call. So I don't think that they're necessarily names we can sign up at this point for that effort, because it's I think not scoped enough for what we plan to do. Any feedback from the group? Okay. And then the next one I wanted to talk about was on VOLTHA security. This is sort of in a similar state. So DT, Bjorn, I think DT signed up to look at analysis of the status quo for that, and then we'd follow up with some discussion on a VOLTHA TST call. And then after that, we could look at defining what the scope for the community would be for 2.1 for this item. So I think it's too early to assign anything for that as well. And we need to have kind of the follow-up once DT completes its analysis.
Yes, it's the proposal. So I'm not sure it's better right now, so in a environment, I think.
So I'm still having problems hearing your audio, Bjorn. So I think that's a follow-up later, and then when you have something you'd like to schedule for a TST call, let me know, and then we'll get that likely on one of our Thursday calls.
Yes, I will do so.
Okay, thank you. And I think those were the two main ones I wanted to go back to. Testing we talked about briefly. So let's go back, see if there's any I missed. Documentation, I think, was the other one. So this one, I think there will be some work in this on the side. Zach, you've talked about some documentation approaches before that likely will have some continued discussion with you on another TST call as well.
Yeah, I can do that. That's sort of in flux. The tool set that has been that it was mentioned, Gitbook, is deprecated by the developers. So we
need to change thoughts again. Okay.
Yeah, and this is coming up with other projects, and Gionos is thinking about the same thing. So it's not a sole problem.
Okay. So I think I'll leave this in terms of contributors for that work and leads. This, I think, stays unassigned at the moment. and we need to do some more investigation. So Zach, I'll be relying on your help for that. So appreciate it. Okay. I think that's mainly what I wanted to look at for the Scrum team leads. We've gotten a few more of the names lined up, so appreciate everyone's help there. And then similar to what we did for the 2.1 planning, we'll look at this chart and see if we can start, I can start populating number of contributors now that we've got some more names. The tech profile work and the OpenOLT adapter migrating to Go, that work is already ongoing, so I expect that that will be, we'll hit the ground running with that with the first sprint for 2.1. And then for the remaining items, it's really kind of trying to look at those development teams for each scope item and figure out when we think that work needs to start in case it has a dependency on other items. And then also on resource availability, because sometimes we have people working on multiple scope items and we might need to do some sequencing based on resource availability as well. So if I could have the tech lead start, you know, if we have stories that you can start entering into JIRA, we have a number of them in there already. We can start labeling them with 2.1 as appropriate also, and then try and get a sense for, based on the current development pool, if we get a reasonable estimate for the story points we think will be needed for that, then we should be able to come up with an estimate on the number of sprints to keep that. I think for this initial pass, what we've been working with are 3-week sprints so far. That's been the history with the VOLTHA community. So I do want to ping the group right now. I didn't prep you for this at all, but I wanted to see if that 3-week sprint duration is working for us, if you think it's too long, if you think we need to reassess it, if we need to start varying it more sprint by sprint with some closer planning there, that could be an option as well. Is there any feedback today from the group on the sprint duration? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. If you have thoughts, feel free to put them on bold to discuss or to email me privately as well. That's an option. So I think for our initial planning estimate, let's go ahead and keep with the 3-week to try and get us a rough timeline, and then we can adjust that as needed as we get into the more detailed 2.1 planning. And then as we add to this list of contributors, we can continue to flesh this out, and then I'll look for some help from the tech leads to try and populate this so we can put together a rough schedule for 2.1. And then we did have the agreement, and let me see if I can find the slide we have it on, that 2.1, I don't have it there. We did have an agreement. 2.1 is going to be scope driven, not schedule driven. So I'm trying to do that roadmap estimate. Here it is, to just give me a rough timeline that I can work with to do some planning and prep. But again, we're planning to do this as a scope driven release. Okay, any other questions from the group on what we've gone over today and our preliminary plans for 2.1? All right, I'm not hearing anything. So we do have plans for user stories to continue to be entered up to the time we're kicking off the 2.1 development effort. So feel free to do that in the background. And I think that's it for what I had planned to cover today. Let me go back to the agenda. Okay, and we did decide to cover this for the TELAPS presentation on alarms. We'll do that on next Tuesday's SIBA call. So I'll put that in the minutes a little cleaner before I send that out. We have a number of discussion topics coming up at some point. Nothing nothing set for a firm date at this point. For 2.0, let me make this 2.0 and 2.1 for the documentation discussion. And then if we have other topics that need to be given some dedicated time for technical discussion on one of the Thursday calls, please let me know so I can add it into the list and get it scheduled in. And also, we are, again, wrapping up Sprint 16 this week. So if you have any demos that you're ready to do in the near future, please let me know and we'll get those scheduled and get you time on one of our VOLTHA calls as well. All right, any other questions from the group today? All right, thanks everyone for your time. I appreciate going through this. It helps me just do a little cleanup in the backlog as well and make sure we're looking at doing some prioritization in the background for the 2.1 effort. So thanks everyone. I'll go ahead and close today's bridge. Any last comments before we adjourn? All right, thanks everyone. And if you could remember to keep getting JIRA updated with current status for our active sprint, that would be great so we can get a good view of it when we close out the sprint at the end of the week. Thanks everyone.